The information.
Good morning. Welcome to Deep South Dining right here on MPB Think Radio. Malcolm White, Carol Palmer. We are glad you are here. Carol, how are you this morning?
Now, I'm so good. I'm so happy. It's a beautiful day. Here we are. It's March.
It's a fine day. It's
yeah.
a fine day. You look up and it's March.
I know
Just
it.
like that. Bam.
Just like that.
And speaking of March, last week we had a grand old time with the birthday, and I just wanted to reiterate how impressed I was with that cake that you brought up here. That was outstanding.
I can take no credit. It was the fabulous Campbell's Bakery in Fondren in Jackson that did it. I think their cakes are amazing.
Yeah, that thing was outrageous. I mean, Joe's sugar cookies were fine, and what Enrica brought was tasty, but that cake, yeah.
It was, what was it, 7 layers of rainbow?
Different colors, yeah, and tasty. Mighty fine. Well, we're going to start our show off in a sort of a different way this morning. We're going to start off with a caller. We have a caller, Bill from Neshoba County is calling and wants to talk about hot cross buns. Hello, Bill. What's up?
Hey, I can't find any around here in Neshoba County, and I'm wondering, is there anywhere in the state that might have some?
Okay, you're looking to buy hot cross buns.
I am.
Okay. Well,
okay, let's put it out there.
Put it out there. Anybody knows where Bill can find hot cross buns? Nothing is coming to mind, but Carol is frantically researching, which is what she does a lot of times when we're on this show. So we'll get you an answer. Just stay tuned. We will get some feedback from people, and we appreciate your listening and certainly appreciate the call. You once again have stumped Deep South
Well,
Dining.
let me
Wait a
ask you a
minute.
quick
question.
Quick
A
question.
quick answer.
Have you ever heard of Wolferman's Bakery?
I have not.
It's a mail order place. I can't remember where it is. Maybe Oklahoma or it's somewhere.
It's out of state.
Out in there, but it's a wonderful bakery, and you can order like the best English muffins ever. They're about 2 inches high, but I see that they have hot cross buns.
All right.
So if you'll look on the internet, Wolferman's, WOLF. That's one.
And we're going to say, if anybody in the radio land listening to our show knows of a more localized place to purchase,
or we'll make some for him.
we could make some. Have you ever tried to make them, Bill?
I have, and let's say my result was less than I had hoped for.
Yeah, I hear you.
Well, I see also that they're symbolic of the crucifixion, and it's an Easter Lent
thing.
So
it's an upcoming.
That's why this time of year it usually appears in bakeries.
Yeah. All right, we're going to put out a call. If anybody knows where, I would imagine places, bakeries across the state, someone makes the hot cross bun, just let us know. It's 1-877-672-7464. We'd love to hear from you. We can help Bill out and help ourselves out too, Carol.
Also, we just got a text from Keith Fulcher up in northwest Mississippi, and he sent a link to LaRoche Lebanese cuisine. Wait, I'm not sure it's about hot cross buns. Maybe just Lebanese cuisine, but we'll be back with you.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, and thanks for listening. We'll get on it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Well, Carol, I wanted to point out that our sidekick, Enrica Williams, will be featured over at the Max in Meridian for an event called Savor the Blues, a culinary and musical experience with Chef Enrica Williams on March 20. So she's going to be cooking up some soul food, and there's going to be some music by Mark Muleman Massey. Here's the info. But
Okay,
we want to
thank
invite
you.
everybody over to the Max. And we have another caller. This could, in fact, help us with the hot cross buns. Karen's on the phone from Madison. Hello, Karen. Good morning.
Just a comment for the gentleman looking for hot cross buns. Broad Street Baking Company makes those during the Easter season.
Perfect.
That is wonderful.
And now you know. Well, Karen, that's great. Thank you. A, thank you for listening.
Sure.
B, thank you for calling and helping Bill and helping us know where to find the hot cross buns as the Easter season is approaching. That's great. Shout out to Broad Street Bakery. I wonder when they put them out. I wonder when.
I honestly am not sure,
You know
but
what?
they may be able to make them special order as well.
Great. Louis LaRose is coming on the show here in just a little while. He worked for a long time for Jeff and Dan. He may know a little bit about when the
and
hot
I
cross
may just
buns.
call him during the break.
Just during the break, just like that. We may just give him a call and find out. Very good. Thank you so much, Karen, for joining us this morning. We appreciate it. In the news, Carol, there was a story in the Clarion Ledger about breweries, and it seems that fans have voted one of Mississippi's breweries as the top. It's USA Today is where it is. USA Today's top list, best of breweries in the nation, the 20 best breweries, and Hattiesburg's very own Southern Pro, I think is what they call it, Southern Prohibition, was named as one of the top 20 in the nation. Southern Prohibition Brewing, Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And I was reading a little bit about it, and it said that that the oldest brewery in the state is Lazy Magnolia from the coast.
down in Kiln.
Right. They started in 2005, but there were other breweries, brew pubs,
And
that
Howlin'
were
Mouths
around
was the
in
first one.
1999.
Right
Well,
when
no,
they
no.
passed the law?
We were the first independent. There were two casinos that had brew pubs. Back then, you couldn't do a brewery. That was illegal. You could do a brew pub, which means that you would make it and you had to consume it on the premises. So it was, Treasure Bay, and there was one more casino that had a brewery, and then us at Howlin' Mouths. So anyway.
It was a
That's-
tough gig come out.
Tough gig. We didn't last long, but thankfully, Lazy Magnolia has lasted a long time, and Southern Prohibition and Hattiesburg has as well. All right, we've got a list here of upcoming festivals around the state. I just wanted to highlight a couple. We spoke of this last week, and we often tout this the Jackson Food and Wine Festival coming up on March 15. That would be Saturday, I believe, right? So it's a one-day event. It takes place at the Mississippi Museum of Art, downtown Jackson, and features 30 or 40 chefs: Damian Kavicki, Hunter Evans, Joseph Sambu, Nick Wallace, Enrica Williams, Eddie Wright, a friend of ours. But I think some of it sold out, but I think there are still tickets available. I don't know. Marissa, you know any details about that? Sometimes Java is our info on Jackson Food and Wine.
I don't just yet, but let me do a little
check
search.
it out. Chaz Lindsay will also be featured. Gino Lee. Chaz Lindsay will be on the show next week to talk about pasta with us, Carol. Looking forward to that.
Looking forward to that one.
Polito and Rowan's. But anyway, it lists all the festivals going on around the state. St. Patty's Parade is listed. I noticed the Township Jazz Festival, Raphael Sims Towns Jazz. That's April 5. Mississippi Makers Festival is May 10 at the two museums. Lots going on in the springtime.
Lots going on. I have something I would like to talk
Please.
about. And that is the National Folk Festival. And it's the nation's longest running traditional arts festival. And it's a 3-day event, and I know you're, I think, on the steering committee.
I'm on some kind of committee, yeah.
You're there. I'm on the vendor committee. But Jackson was chosen, and, you know,
Had
there
to
have only
apply,
been
yes.
28 cities. It's a big deal. It's for 3 years, and by year 3, they estimate that 150,000 people will come. But this year, it's going to be November 7th through 9th. But the reason I'm mentioning it today in March is they are taking vendor applications for food vendors. And they're really hoping to get people representing all of the food and culture of Mississippi.
Gotcha.
And what a great place if you're a food truck or a food vendor. Go ahead and go to the website. It's nationalfolkfestival.com and fill out the application. The deadline is sometime in mid-April.
Okay.
But a great opportunity if you're a festival food person.
Right. Yes, and you're on that committee, and we're looking for not only traditional food vendors, but sort of ones that are more iconic to Mississippi, particular to our culture, whether it's a catfish taco or tamales,
exactly.
Or whatever it might be. Anyway, calling all unique food vendors for the National Folk Festival to be held in Jackson. The dates again?
November 7th through 9th in 2025, and the vendor applications need to be in, I don't have the date, but I know that it's mid-April.
So you would just go to their website and look for a vendor app. Also wanted to point out that Sip and Savor, another food and wine-related event, will take place at the Max in Meridian on April 12, and yours truly will be set up. Marissa, you're going with me, right?
I am.
We're going to be set up interviewing participants, chefs, people who are there, gathered in Meridian. We'll be hopefully gathering some future shows for Deep South Dining. So that's Sip and Savor, April 12 at the Max in Meridian. Love to have you join us over there for that event.
Hey, Mal, have you been checking out Cooking and Coping this week?
I looked a couple times. In fact, I spent a little bit of time letting people in. You know, sometimes there's just like you have to
a line of people
let people in. So I spent a lot of time.
And I'm sorry, I kind of fell
in.
down on the
That's
job
okay.
this week.
No. We have to share these responsibilities.
Yeah, but there was some great stuff out there this week. And last week I posted a picture of a sushi king cake. And it had a reach of 28,000.
Yeah, that blew the top off of it.
That was pretty strong. And, one of my favorite posters is Anita Grossman Horn. And she used to live in the Delta, and sometime in the past 3 or 4 years moved to Colorado. And she posts a couple of times a week. But this week she compared the etouffee from Southern Living to one in the new Melissa Martin Bayou cookbook. And it just looked delicious. Lots of people on there were making Mardi Gras and post-Mardi Gras food. Lots and lots of gumbo and etouffee and New Orleans food. And I saw somebody, maybe Charlotte Pelton from Florida, had the same cookbook you were promoting last week from the New Orleans cookbook.
Yeah. She said she'd listened to the show, and she had made a couple of posts regarding the whole show, including the cookbook, Richard and Rima Collins, the New Orleans cookbook.
And where can people, do you have to look like on Etsy or used bookstores for that?
I would think so. I believe it's out of print. I see them occasionally here and there at used bookstores. First editions, even Lemuria might have one in first editions. I don't know. But it's a great cookbook. And I noticed that Charlotte either had a copy or went online and posted something about it. But that's great. All right, here's what we're going to do, Carol. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to bring on our guest today, Louis LaRose, Jacksonian. Very successful restaurateur.
We've been trying to get him for a long time.
Been trying to get him on the show for a long time. Great backstory. Has worked at many well-known eateries around the city. Anyway, we're looking forward to having him on. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back And Louis LaRose will be our guest to talk about his career, his restaurant, and taking your calls, as always, if you are so inclined, 1-877-672-7464, or you can just shoot us an email to food@mpbonline.org. This is Deep South Dining. We'll be right back. More on MPB Think Radio.
You don't want to miss the next Mississippi Antique Showcase coming to Oxford, Mississippi, May 2nd and 3rd.
For a $100 donation, you can get a showcase ticket, complimentary food, cocktails, and an on-site appraisal, or a chance to be on the show. Or for $60, you can just come and be part of the party. Call 1-844-874-6874, visit mpbonline.org, or scan the QR code on your screen.
We can't wait to see you in Oxford for the next Mississippi Antique Showcase.
Hello, I'm Desiree Frazier, host of the award-winning news program, Mississippi Edition. We bring you conversations about the latest news from across the Magnolia State. Whether it's politics, healthcare, or education, you'll hear in-depth discussions on issues that matter to you. So join us each weekday morning at 8:30 on MPB Think Radio, or download the podcast, listen through the app, and online.
Hi, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bobby Rush. As a blues man, I love Mississippi Public Broadcasting. If you support Mississippi music and their local programming, donate now, right now.
Welcome back to Deep South Dining. Malcolm White, Carol Palmer, right here on MPB Think Radio. We are glad you are here. We are glad we are here.
And we are glad that Louis LaRose is here.
We're very happy. Been trying to get Louis on the show now for a while. He's a busy man, but we finally corralled him, got him on.
Glad to be here.
And we are happy to have you. And the
on
timing
your only
is great.
day off.
No. He has to work today.
You work today?
We're open
off?
on Mondays.
Okay.
Yes.
So your current restaurant, you've combined your Belhaven concept with your Southern sandwich concept.
That's correct.
In Ridgeland, and now you are all in on Highland Colony. Is that right?
That's correct, in the township.
Yeah. And what is the name of the restaurant?
We are Lou's Full-Serv.
You're Full-Serv again.
Yes, sir.
But you were a sandwich
right.
concept.
We had opened up Lou's Southern Sandwich Company mid-2023, and now we've kind of just combined the two concepts, kind of like a little Hail Mary. We were struggling at both places, and financially, and no one restaurant was struggling more than the other, but it was a struggle for separate reasons at each place, financially mostly. But we just rolled them all up into one and threw a Hail Mary and found a new home.
And I will say, from my observation, you're struggling no more, because I think this place has really taken off. The last time I was in there was a 45-minute wait for lunch.
Yeah, we've had some really good days. It's been pretty consistent. I expect this week to be a little slow because of spring break, but
right.
Very, very grateful overall for the warmth, the welcome, the reception we've had moving this. I guess combining the two restaurants, the sandwich shop was really, it's funny because it was just supposed to be a little easier version. I mean, almost everything we were serving there, we had done once. Every sandwich had been on the menu in Jackson, just about, with a couple new ones. And, so almost all the sandwiches are still there.
Well, let me say, you may have been struggling financially, however, and that's the restaurant business, but you have a deep well of loyal customers and put out fantastic food. So I'm just glad that we all have the opportunity, to come to Ridgeland
we try
now.
Every day, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, there was a lot of mourning going on when you left Belhaven.
I know, it was for us as well. It wasn't, that's our home. We had a great 10 plus years over there, and it was, like I said, it was almost a forced decision, but we're still here kicking.
Hey, have you ever heard of a financially struggling restaurant business, Malcolm?
You know, Louis, I was just thinking about COVID, the horror that was COVID. And, and you and I have something in common. That is that we both trade with the Highland Village Chevron. And we're great friends.
Yep.
With Mike and his team, and you're up there in the mornings a lot, drinking coffee, kicking tires, and talking to the guys, and so am I. And we used to bump into each other a lot during COVID, and sit there and just go on and on about were we going to survive or not. And lo and behold, we both made it in different sorts of ways.
Sure. Yeah, it was definitely tough, and I'm grateful to have made it through.
Well, we certainly miss you in Belhaven, but we totally get it and understand that you're doing what you needed to do, and you're doing it very well, and I'm very proud of you. You've got a great story. I want to take us back. I mean, to look at you, you'd never know you were old enough to work at Poets. but you actually
Mick and Mott's. I saw that was in the early 80s, and that was the early 80s.
It was the early 90s.
Early 90s.
Yeah, it's
okay.
So you washed dishes at Poets? Was that your first job?
It was. It was.
How old were you?
15. Going on 16. I washed dishes at Poets for a few years, and that was tough over there, washing dishes at that place. It was busy.
Always busy.
Come in the afternoons, bus tub stacked to the ceiling. Washed dishes for a while, moved up, bussing, like to play with knives back in the kitchen, so they let me start cutting chicken and shrimp, and I guess that's kind of where I found a love, because you love anything that gets you out of the dish room. So prep. I did everything there, and they had their sister restaurant, Sam's Westside, which I heard you mention, the hot cross buns in Broad Street. That would be my only guess, because I know they served them for a while there, if I recall correctly. But Sam's Westside was owned by the Poets.
It was a wonderful restaurant.
And that was where Broad Street is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So you went from Poets to Sam's Westside, and then on to...
And then I worked at Mick and Mott's for a little while.
With Tom Massey.
Yep, Tom Massey. And
what was the chef's name there? Really talented.
Carl Talo.
Yeah. Very talented.
Carl Talo. I worked with some great people there. That was a cool restaurant. And then from there, I'd applied. I started thinking, well, maybe I could make a good job out of this and keep going. At this point, I'm graduating high school.
This is all before high school.
Yeah. Kid's still in high school.
Yeah, and I worked, for my mom at the YMCA down at the end of Fortification Street in the mornings before school.
Okay, I have to stop here because we got a text during the first segment from Keith Fulcher, who says he was your principal in high school.
At St. Joe Junior High. Yeah, Keith Fulcher. I remember
Small
him.
world.
Absolutely.
Keith is up in Northwest Mississippi now. He is over the Community Foundation. He's, spreading love and helping communities.
Yeah.
Like, they have a big project right now to help the Rolling Fork community. Correct. That was devastated by the tornado. But I really appreciated that he took the time. He's a great resource. He was giving us a resource for a Lebanese restaurant in Memphis. It's called LaRose. He always keeps us apprised of the
LaRoche Bakery.
of Lebanese food.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool.
Anyway, so you were a St. Joe. A good Catholic?
Yes, I went to St. Richard's all the way through 10th grade at St. Joe, the old St. Joe on Bowling Street. And my last 2 years, I finished at Jackson Academy. My brother had wanted to move because a lot of his friends had moved, and so he went to JA for his senior year, and so I followed because we shared a car, and yes, it was
sure
you're not going to go one direction and the other, so we.
And Henry was sure not going to buy another car.
That's right, that's right.
So we got you to Mick and Mott's. Bring us on, because you moved around. You made some great connections with Jeff and Dan Blumenthal, and
I went and applied for a job. When you start like opening your eyes and you start learning and say, hey, well, I want to be creative. I want to do things. And Bravo was really, really new. I went and applied over there, and Sandy Scott was the sous chef. I remember sitting down with him in an interview, and I felt like it was going to be just like another interview, if you will. And I'd mentioned maybe wanting to go to culinary school because I had recently found out that you could go to school to get paperwork or, a degree in culinary arts. And he kind of perked an eyebrow up, and they gave me a job. So I left, Poets, Mick and Mott's, and went over there to work, and it was fun.
And that was quite a career. I mean, I remember seeing you, in the kitchen. I mean, you had quite a big responsibility there.
I did. I was pretty much a standard line or lead line shift cook there. After a while, spent about 2 years there, and that's when I decided to, I guess, further my education. I wasn't really wanting to go straight to college out of high school. It wasn't my gig.
So you chose Johnson & Wales in Miami.
I did.
And why do you recall your thought process on that?
Well, there are a lot of financial reasons. If I could have had the pick, I would have probably gone to CI in New York.
Right.
But there's really, that one's just straight school. There's really no real room to work or whatever, and we're not. We weren't as financially blessed as a family as some people. So, I was working to help. My mom helped me. My dad helped me a little bit getting into school with like some books and things like that. And culinary school is expensive. I guess you got to pay for a lot of food. But
right.
I got a couple grants. My mom actually sold her house and moved into Van Mark Apartments around that time and helped me with a large check to get into school. And I worked from there paying, had gotten student loans as well. But I knew that I could go to Miami. It was one of the better ranked schools. I had checked out, pretty much all of them in the country. And it looked like it was a good place to work where there was tons of jobs around and lots of different culture you could learn from with all the different types of restaurants they have in South Florida.
Were you thinking at that time that you would stay in South Florida? That might be where you were based, or were you always thinking, I'm coming back to Jackson?
I don't know. I liked it down there, but I'm not a big city guy. I like, Jackson, the surrounding area is big enough for me. I'm not a huge nightlife person, never have been. And like that city was very expensive. People would come to visit. I'm like, hey, we go to the hole in the wall, not South Beach, because that's what everybody wanted to do. But it was expensive.
Yeah.
But it was great. It was
so
totally
a really
different.
reputable, well-known school.
Yes. Johnson & Wales was good. Had a lot of great teachers. Classic cooks, from like the brigade system that you don't really hear about anymore these days, because that's just we've kind of had a little shift, and as far as like educational purposes, and I still feel like that on hands education, is the best. Theory and practice are two different things.
Very.
So it's
so they did the foundational,
correct,
the mother sauces,
absolutely,
stocks and.
Stock, sauces,
took you
waste,
down to the
nutrition, everything. A lot of food history. So you get a lot of old historical knowledge on things like that, And I'll remember something every now and then and be like, "Whoa, I learned that," in school. And I worked while I was there as well. So worked
what
a couple
type
different
of
jobs.
restaurant did you work in?
I worked at a couple of them. I worked at a lot of events for school because I was a captain on our advanced standing team, because I went through an advanced program for people with prior work experience. So I got to clip out of some like the basic like cafeteria class and things like that.
Like advanced placement.
Yeah. I worked for Mark Militello at Mark's La Solis, did events with Alan Susser and Norman Van Aken through the school. I worked at a couple other smaller restaurants around a Cuban style restaurant.
Yeah,
learned
that's
a lot,
what I was
learned a lot of different
wondering
cuisines down there.
if you were able to work in some of the more ethnic restaurants.
Absolutely, there was a lot of the lead cooks I worked with were, I guess, from other countries, some, Puerto Rico, Cuba. I had, there was a Russian guy that worked with us, I believe, at one place. But there was, it was a melting pot, and the bigger cities tend to be a lot of the times. But it was good to learn and listen to I guess your peers, when you're up and coming and learning.
And after graduation at Johnson & Wales, you came back to the Bravo team, right?
That's right. I'd stayed in touch with Dan and Jeff, and I think this was right around the time where Dave was still with them, and they were looking to open up Broad Street Bakery. So they were kind of well on their way with that, and they were looking for, I guess, with Dan splitting time and other people, being shifted around within the company, having, them opening a new business, they were looking for somebody. So I came on as a sous chef. 97. I came back. I'd left in like 90, '98 I came back.
So, describe, if you could, the different way that you felt in that kitchen before you went to Johnson and Wales and after you came back. Did you feel more empowered, more educated, more prepared?
Not really, but I felt more confident in my abilities because of some of the places where I worked. I worked in, Bravo, by all means was a busy restaurant back then. There wasn't as much competition as there is now. But going to Miami and working, like for Mark Militello at Mark's La Solis, it was 300-400 people for lunch. It was a huge name down there when I was working. And you had to grind or get out of the way.
Right.
And, so I felt more confident in my skills, my ability to create, having learned down there for 2 years almost. And I felt pretty good, but I don't ever feel like I'm, better or, I'm just one of the regular people most of the time. If I'm cooking, I'm going to stand right next to you, not above you. So.
Yeah. Were you able to start creating specials while you were at Bravo?
Yes. After a while.
That's kind of my memory,
that
you did some pretty swell stuff.
Yeah, I did. Dan, for the most part, was executive chef the entire time I was there, and had pretty much, the menu under control. I would run specials on the weekends, or we'd get a fish in, and I would do things, and I was in charge of, cutting the proteins and making the desserts while I was there the second go around. But yeah, I was able to create and do things, and I would just read, look at books and say, hey, I see a picture of something. I like the way that looks. Let me put something of my own together that looks like that. Because I was more visual than I've got a really scatterbrained kind of form when it comes to reading and things like that. So I have to listen a lot. That's why I do audiobooks more than like sitting down and reading, because my mind is 100 miles an hour most of the time.
Well, those energy drinks don't.
Sometimes they do. That's right.
Excuse me. So you've been in the restaurant business in Jackson for really quite a long time.
30 some odd years.
Describe, if you would, for our listeners, sort of the way it is today versus the other periods or times that you've been in the biz.
Wow, that's a good one. I guess if you think back to, I think, there's a lot more focus on food these days and quality eating. Everybody wanted a good dinner. Say you go back to 95 or whatever. The restaurants have always been busy. But with I guess the Food Network, if you will, has put culinary arts or cooking or restaurants into the limelight more so than it was when I was coming up in the early 90s, early 2000s here. So it's bred competition, it's bred great cooks, it's bred people who really care and are deep-seated about what we do for a living, trying to keep tradition alive or create new things. So it's a huge, it's a big difference today, whether it be competition or creativity. There's a ton of that to go around these days, and there's a lot more people who are finding out that this is not just a restaurant. You're not just a cook. This is a career for us.
Yeah. And that's been one of the biggest changes, I think, in our careers, Malcolm, is that the chef was back in the kitchen and people didn't know. It was just this anonymous person back in the kitchen. And now the chef is the representative of the restaurant, the face of the restaurant,
which
front
is
and center.
I guess coins the term chef-driven cuisine,
right?
Which is, I guess, more popular because they're the ones that take the, the creativity to the next level and things like that. I like kind of being in the back, in the shadows. I like to let my people, and obviously, in Ridgeland where we are now, the way we're operating is, I've always done more than just, at my own business, I've always done more than just cook. I help manage. I do a lot of the front house stuff. So I like to be able to go around and, speak with guests and customers and all that. So it's different for me today than it was when we were originally up in Lou's, where I was on the line every day. And a lot of the times I cover people that aren't there and whatnot. But I don't like being the guy that takes all the accolades or the pat on the back. I want my staff to show, and I want the food to show. I want what we do as a whole to take, the credit for what we do, not me as a person.
And it's a family business, right? Does your wife work with you?
She
Do I have
does.
that right?
She does. My wife works a couple days a week. She helps with, I guess invoices, payroll, coding, all the stuff that I really am too scatterbrained to do most of the time. Entering tips for tip credit and stuff like that for everything into payroll. She does the majority of that. And we still do a lot of the accounting stuff on our own, with the invoices and all that.
So y'all started working together when you opened a Full-Serv in Belhaven. Was it
Correct.
2014?
2014, yes, sir.
That's when y'all sort of became a family business, or maybe
that's right.
Maybe that was always the
That's
idea.
right. My wife had been cutting hair for about the 10 years prior, and I was like, well, we need to do this. So because I needed help, and we've had some good people along the way, to help us make it what it is for sure.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Louis LaRose, a restaurateur, chef, based right here in
the Metro.
In the Metro, the city of Seoul. We're grateful that he's come in to visit with us today. We enjoy talking to him. And if you have any questions or comments for Louis, all you got to do is pick up the phone. It's toll free. Give us a call, 1-877-672-7464. If you have any sort of tips you're looking for, information you would like for Louis to share with you, be glad to share that with you. Love to hear from you. Otherwise, we'll keep on yakking. This is Deep South Dining right here on MPB Think Radio.
Since 1970, MPB has been enriching the lives of Mississippians.
Everything we do gives us the chance to grow and learn.
With your support, we are always there whenever and wherever you need us. Together through the years, together in the future. Please consider making a donation at mpbfoundation.org. MPB, your stories, our mission.
You don't want to miss the next Mississippi Antique Showcase coming to Oxford, Mississippi, May 2nd and 3rd.
For a $100 donation, you can get a showcase ticket, complimentary food, cocktails, and an on-site appraisal, or a chance to be on the show. Or for $60, you can just come and be part of the party. Call 1-844-874-6874, visit mpbonline.org, or scan the QR code on your screen.
We can't wait to see you in Oxford for the next Mississippi Antique Showcase.
What's happening at the Mississippi Legislature? Tune in to MPB's At Issue for an inside look at the legislative session, interviews with legislators, and perspectives from both sides of the aisle. I'm your host, Wilson Stribling. At Issue airs every Friday night at 6:30 on MPB Think Radio throughout the session. You can also subscribe to the MPB At Issue podcast and catch At Issue videos on YouTube and at mpbonline.org. MPB's At Issue. Tune in, Mississippi.
Welcome back to Deep South Dining. Malcolm White and Carol Palmer. We are glad you have joined us. Louis LaRose is our guest today. Louis owns and operates Lou's Full-Serv in Ridgeland, and he has joined us this morning. We were going back through his history, and we had gotten up to the time that he worked at Bravo. But you also worked for Derek Emerson, did you not, Louis?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
I guess I went from Bravo. I had looked for another job. I was interested in maybe taking a break from my end of the industry and was looking into going into food sales, and that didn't work out. And Derek offered me a job after I had already left Bravo. I kind of left with no job at that point, and Derek offered me a job, and so I walked in and we opened up. I opened up, I guess Local 463 in the old Atlantica spot as his chef de cuisine. In 2000 and mid 2010.
But you had taken a break and you were selling food for Cisco, I believe?
Well, that was the intent.
That was the intent.
I'd kind of gotten to a point where I was like, I need some a little different.
Some family time.
Yeah, or whatever. I'm not sure what I was thinking. I was just tired, I guess, and so I was looking. But out of respect for my employers, I gave them a pretty good notice and just was looking to do something different. And that didn't pan out. So I was kind of I had about a month off. And I was kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do while waiting to hear. And then, Derek called and said, hey, if, you need a job, I still need somebody over here. So that's kind of how that started.
What a great person to work for. You have worked for some pretty amazing chefs.
I've learned a lot from everybody in two totally different ends of the spectrum as far as how they run their businesses. Jeff and Dan, and then Derek here locally were really great mentors for me.
When you were talking about how much you like being back in the kitchen and doing that kind of stuff, when you were talking about it, I was thinking about Derek, because when you go into Kate or you go into Walker's, he's on the line. It's an open kitchen,
right.
So you can see him, especially, at Walker's. What do they have, like 5 feet?
Mm-hmm.
Just
right.
Small
kitchen.
Tiny kitchen, and, putting out great food, but he loves to be on the line, just like that.
Absolutely. I love being on the line, too. Like I said, the pivot in the business has kind of changed the way I have to focus my attention. So, but that's kind of where we ended up, where I am today.
Carol, you said that you got a text during the break from Charlie Reeves.
Yeah, Charlie Reeves, one of our great friends and listeners, found during the show, he went on eBay and found
some copies of the New Orleans cookbook. Richard and Rima Collins, Collin. Richard was they were both professors at UNO, but Richard was the underground gourmet. He was the anonymous food reviewer in New Orleans when I lived there in the 70s, and later came out from the everyday underground and was the food reviewer and I guess cookbook food editor for the Times-Picayune.
Yeah,
anyway,
it's a classic cookbook, and we appreciate Charlie. So there are some copies out there if you jump on eBay.
Louis, do you have a cookbook or a collection of cookbooks that mean a lot to you that have influenced your life?
Yeah, I have. You got to put me on the spot, and I'm gonna have to remember the name.
Well,
yeah, I do have. I have a good stack at the restaurant. Like I said, I've read tons of them. I have some old school. I think one of the first chefs that guy that I did some of my research on, and that I really liked. Everybody knows Thomas Keller.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
French Laundry, and Charlie Trotter.
Yeah.
Charlie Trotter was such a pioneer and died very, very young.
Yep. Too young for sure.
Yep. He gave the culinary world a lot.
But those are the two first guys that, I guess, in the mid-'90s were at the front of the creativity scene and culinary scene, and just very simple, a lot of classic technique, French cuisine, and minimalistic plating. Things looked really clean and crisp and fresh, and that's kind of what we like to do: fresh seafood, fresh meats. Just good seasoning.
One of the things I was going to ask you is what you like to cook, but I'm looking at the menu of Lou's Full-Serv. Malcolm, I'm very hungry.
You're hungry.
Looking at there's we'll talk about redfish number 1 and redfish number 2, but talk to me about the cast iron chicken. That sounds absolutely delicious.
It's good. It's a basically an Amish French airline chicken breast. We sear it cast iron, finish roasting it in the oven. It's served with just simple haricot verts, a little Creole seasoning, and like a toasted garlic grain mustard pan sauce that we deglaze with some chicken stock and pour it over the chicken and the beans when we serve it.
Do you still do a risotto with it?
Not with that chicken currently. We do serve a risotto under our scallops, and we always serve the risotto as a side. We used to serve, years ago, we served a risotto dish on the menu, but right now we just use it as a supplementary side on a couple items.
Did the Chick-fil-A make the transition?
Absolutely.
Oh, it was
the
on both,
Chick-fil-A's
wasn't
been
it?
in both places.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Chick-fil-A.
I love the Chick-fil-A. It's a chicken thigh.
We use a thigh.
Boned
Correct.
out, fried on a sandwich, and it's And what is the sauce? It's got a
We just put our homemade or comeback with our house-made pickles.
I love those pickles.
You know, we make our B&B pickles and our dill pickles in-house. But yeah, the Chick-fil-A's been a popular sandwich. You know, it's about an 8 to 10 ounce thigh. Sometimes they're really whoppers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we marinate our homemade vinaigrette in a little spicy brown mustard and, you know, buttermilk fry it.
How long do you marinate it?
We prep a case every day, so sometimes it's shorter than others, but generally, you know, at least, you know, 6 to 12 hours.
I'm really interested in brining chicken to fry, and so you brought it up. I talk to different chefs about it all the time. Like, what is the ideal for you? The ideal brining
overnight
formula and timing and percent of, I don't know, salt, whatever you use.
You know, we're actually not brining anything currently. You'd ask me a percentage, I'd probably tell you the wrong number. I'd have to go back and look at my notes. But overnight, if we were brining at one point some pork, and we with our house-made hams, we were brining those for about 10, 12 days at a time, depending on the weight. You know, but you know, good salt, and I like the brown sugar in the brine as opposed to white sugar. Some, you know, herbs, juniper, rosemary, thyme, things like that.
What are some of your favorite things to cook on the menu?
I'm a burger guy. So
well, you got two really good ones.
Yeah. We have more. We serve a couple of them at night. We have more at dinner. You know, but from that, I like a good steak. You know, we serve a really good cut of steak. We get from, you know, Evans Meats, and we have, you know, the Terrace Major is really good. It's an economical cut of meat. You know, they're always consistent. We get them portions, so, you know, of course we pay a little bit more for that. There's no waste, no labor on our end for that. But a good ribeye or a good fillet, it's a coin toss on the day. But, you know, if I'm going to cook something, you know, I like quicker, easier food at home, so I can, you know, spend time with my family or my kids. You know, we do taco nights a lot, stir fries, things like that. For the restaurant, I mean, I really, really, really like our short rib. It's a sherry wine and veal glaze that we braise it in. We cook it in a pan sauce to serve for service with our hash brown casserole under it, which is kind of like my take on the Cracker Barrel hash brown casserole.
Right. I was going to say, it sounds familiar.
You know, yeah.
Well, Carol, you were asking about the redfish dishes.
I'm interested in what you're doing with the redfish, and then I want to talk a little brisket.
Okay,
so let's
absolutely.
start with redfish.
Well, I mean, if you've got a restaurant, I think in the metro area, and you don't serve redfish, you're missing out. Yeah. People love redfish around here. It's you know. You can go catch them local, you know, so it's pretty popular fish around here. It's mild, it's not overly fishy, but yeah, we bronze our redfish, which is similar to blackening, but it's a lighter technique as far as like less heat and less of a crust of the seasoning, so it's not as like in your face. But we bronze them. We make our own spice in house. We grind our peppers, our seasoning for the steak. We've done all that since day one. So we make our own blend of pepper for our steaks. We make our own, we call it house spice at the restaurant. We season our fries for the fondue with it. We used to season all our fries in Jackson with it, but we do salt, pepper, and, you know, garlic in Ridgeland now. But for the fondue, we have our house spice on it, and that's what we use to season the fish. And we grind it. It's basically, you make your own recipe of like a Cajun seasoning, and ours kind of really just omits a heavy dose of cayenne pepper to keep it from being overly spicy.
Heat,
yeah, so it's more approachable for more people.
Wait,
but
you just said you have a dose of cayenne to keep it from being spicy?
We eliminate the cayenne.
Oh, you eliminate
the cayenne.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do that, and we bronze it so it's a lighter color, not as heavy crust on seasoning as like your classic like New Orleans style blackened. And we serve them two different ways. I was like run redfish. I guess our redfish number one, which is bronzed, corn pepper hash, green onion crab butter, and whipped potatoes has been probably our number one entree, you know, since the day we opened. And I was like, well, let's try another one, you know, because the way we do it for the redfish number two is the way I used to cook it at home. on the weekends before I had a restaurant at all. I would do a little shrimp pan sauce on top of it with some baby sweet peppers and shallots and green onion, maybe a touch of Old Bay on the shrimp, and risotto or a rice pilaf. Is how I would cook it at home. But it's very popular to have both of those for sure.
Now, is bronzing something you learned? Is a technique that was taught, or is this something that you
read up and learned on?
That existed, and you just sort of you do your own spin on it.
Correct.
Yeah, tell me about that. How do you bronze?
Well, it's like I said, it's a little bit less of a crust and less heat, so you're not just like blackening the fish. It's bronzing. So I guess it's the color of the fish is so we just call it bronze.
Okay.
It's kind of got a golden color to it, but it's not just a straight fish. With some salt on it in the skillet. So.
Okay. How do you do your brisket?
We slow roast our brisket in the oven. We cook it about 12 hours. We roast them in the oven overnight at about 235, 240 degrees on convection, and salt, pepper, garlic, bay leaf, a little stock in the bottom of it. We roast in the oven. We don't have the provisions to smoke a bunch of meats there because we don't have an indoor smoker. We were using a little one for our tomatoes and like the vegetables that we put in our red beans. I smoke my vegetables to go in the red beans. It gives it a little bit different flavor.
We have a question in our chat relationship here. We often get questions coming at us from a multitude of ways. Jan is asking if you have plant-based options on your menu, or do you accommodate plant-based
as opposed to like vegan and plant-based. I don't have any plant-based meat substitutes, but we're always welcome to accommodate as many allergies and dietary preferences or guidelines that we need to. We have a lot of vegetables that we do. We can do that. They're cooked without butter. Spinach. Our salads can be modified. There's a couple of them that do have a protein in it that we can do. We'll modify whatever we can to fit as many or whatever restrictions or guidelines that somebody wants to follow, as best as our ability provides.
Yeah. Well, that's something that's really changed in our industry. There was a time when you had a menu and that was your menu. And now we all try our very best to accommodate the many complications of
Well, if we don't
dietary.
do it, they're going to go somewhere else to somebody who does.
Exactly.
So, my main goal is to do what we do again today, tomorrow, and kind of keep people coming in. Right. So if somebody knows that they can come get a vegetarian plate that's also vegan, we can do that. We have a couple vegan salad dressings, and we make all of our salad dressings, all of our sauces, desserts, and ice creams in-house. So
oh my gosh, we've run out of time, Carol, just like that.
I'm ready to have lunch at Lou's.
I don't think there's any question about that. Louis, thank you so much for coming
Absolutely.
in. We appreciate it. Enjoyable visit.
Thank y'all so much for having me on.
Continued success.
Thank you so much.
Deep South Dining is a production of Mississippi Public Broadcasting's Think Radio. We are funded by generous contributions from folks like yourself, and we thank you. The show is produced by Marissa Vaughn. For our very special guest, Louis LaRose, for my co-host, Carol Palmer, I'm Malcolm White. We ask that you now stay tuned for Now You're Talking with Marshall Ramsey, followed by Southern Remedy at 11. And please join us next Monday and every Sunday at 9 a.m. for more Deep South Dining heard right here on MPB Think Radio. Go to Lou's Full-Serv.